Hello friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Abhijit Chaki and today we are going to solve the rest of the question. Now the chapter is stress and strain, and in my previous video we have solved till question number 10. Okay. Now today we are going to solve from question number 11. Now this question came in the year 2003. Okay. Now for the solution of this question, first we need to identify the question. Now, in this question, what is given here is that a bar of varying square cross section. The cross sectional area is also mentioned to us, which is square. Okay. A bar of varying square cross section is loaded symmetrically as shown in the figure. Now, this is the bar. The cross section is given by, the cross sectional measurement is given by 100 millimeter and the bottom region 50 millimeter. Okay. So suppose if this is a square, the sides are given as 100 millimeter and 50 millimeter. Okay, this is given to us. Now what is saying? The load shown are placed on the axis of symmetry of the cross section. Ignoring self weight, the maximum tensile stress in Newton per millimeter square is given by, these are the four options. Now we are going to solve this. First and foremost, I want you to draw this figure. So let us draw this figure first. This is given as 50 kilonewton. The load on the sides are given as 100 kilonewton, and on this side same 100 kilonewton. And the cross section is 100 millimeter. Okay. So now we are going to draw the free body diagram. Okay. Free body diagram, FBD. Now okay. This is the free body diagram. Now we are going to apply the forces. Now first, let me consider this as body 1. Let me first consider this to be body 1. This is body 1. And let us say that this is body 2. Okay. Now, force is acting at this point like this. The load is given as 50 kilonewton. Therefore, an equal and opposite direction, a force will act like this. This force is also 50 kilonewton. Now, from this body, therefore, another force will be acting upon this like this. This load is also 50 kilonewton. Now from the sides, this load is 100. From this side, there is another load, same measurement, 100 kilonewton. Therefore, combination of all the three loads, 100, 50 and 100, an equal and opposite load will be acting at the opposite side. This is 250 kilonewton. Now what is given here is the cross-sectional area. The cross-sectional measurement is already given to us, that is, this one is 100 millimeter. So therefore we can write it as the cross-sectional area of body 2 is A2 and is given by 100 into 100. Okay. Now similarly, for the body 1 or the lower portion of the body, what is given? The cross-sectional area is 50 millimeter. 50 millimeter. So we can write it as the cross-sectional area of body 1, say A1, is 50 into 50. Okay, this is millimeter square. This is also millimeter square. Now I can write it like this. Let us find the stress at the lower portion of the body. Say for the lower portion, body 1, stress is given as, this stress is given by P1 by A1. The load which is acting is 50 kilonewton and the cross-sectional area is 50 into 50 millimeter square. Therefore, solution is given as 50 into 10 to the power 3. What we did here is convert this kilonewton into newton. So 10 to the power 3 newton by 50 into 50. Okay, now we can write it as millimeter square. Therefore, the answer is given as 20 Newton per millimeter square. Simple calculation, 20 Newton per millimeter square. Now, for the upper portion of the body, this is body 2. We are going to consider this part right now. The stress is given as sigma 2 is equal to P2 by A2. P2 is given as 250. Now, here we can see the total load acting on this body is 250 kilonewton in this direction and 250 kilonewton, that is adding this up, 250 kilonewton in the downward direction. So here we can write it like this, 100 plus 50 plus 100 by 100 into 100. Now the above value is in kilonewton and the bottom portion is millimeter square. Therefore we can write it as, now I'm going to write it directly, 250 into 10 to the power 3 Newton divided by 10 to the power 4 millimeter square. After solution we get 25 Newton per millimeter square. Now what is given in the question? The question is that we need to find the maximum tensile stress in Newton per millimeter square. Now in this diagram, or from this diagram, we can see that the lower portion of the body produces a stress of 20 kilonewton and the upper portion of the body produces a stress of about 25 kilonewton. Therefore from here we can write it as the maximum tensile stress is equal to 25 Newton per millimeter square. So the correct option is option C, 25 Newton per millimeter square. For our next question, question number 12, the question is given as, for linearly elastic system, the type of displacement function for the strain energy is linear, quadratic, cubic or quartic. Now, what does this question actually want you to ask? The relationship or the type of relationship between displacement and strain energy. Okay, now for the solution. Now, question number 12 came in the year 2004. 2004. Okay. Now, to know this question, first we need to know what is strain energy. Strain energy is given as half into load into displacement. We can write it as half P into delta L. Now, from this equation, you might be thinking that the relation is linear, but that is not the case. To obtain the strain energy and the relation between displacement, we need to convert these variable functions into a constant function. So another equation is strain energy is given as half stress into strain into volume, right? And we know stress upon strain is the Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity. Therefore, we can write it as half strain square into E into volume. Now, from this equation, we see that the quantity half is a constant. Strain produced in a body is also constant because it follows Hooke's law. Young's modulus of a body is constant and volume of a body will remain constant. Okay, it never changes. So therefore we can write it as strain energy is directly proportional to strain whole square. Now this is strain, right? We can write it as strain that is E is directly proportional to displacement. That is delta L. Therefore, strain energy is a quadratic function displacement. Strain energy is a quadratic function of displacement. Therefore, our answer is option number B, quadratic. Now for question number 13. The symmetry of stress tensor at a point in a body under equilibrium is obtained from which of the following? Conservation of mass, force equilibrium equation, moment equilibrium equation, conservation of energy. Now, first we need to know what is stress tensor. Actually, stress tensor is referring to the component of stresses acting in a body. Say, let me add a page. This is question number 13. It came in the year 2005. So, first, in this case, let me draw a prism or a prismatic bar or any material. Now, in this case, the axis is given as, let us take this one. This is the x-axis or the x face. This is the y-axis or the y face. This is the z-axis or the z face. Now we are going to draw the stress tensor or shear stress component as well as direct or normal stress component. Now, along the x face, a normal stress will be acting as sigma x. Similarly, along the y face, a normal stress will be acting in the upward direction. Let us consider this direction, okay? We are considering this direction right now. Sigma y, okay? And along this direction, a sigma z will be acting. But let us now consider this sigma y and sigma x, okay? Now, along this direction, a shear stress component will be acting as tau xy. Now, in this tau x and y, this signifies the x phase. This is the x phase. and this y indicates the direction in which it is acting. So this component is shearing along the x face to the direction y. Similarly, another stress component or stress tensor is acting at this like this. This is tau yx. Okay. Here tau is the shear stress. Tau is the shear stress. Y represents the face along which the shear stress is acting, and x is representing the direction in which it is acting. Okay, this is tau yx. Now, in this diagram, let us consider that this is the length, this is the breadth, and this is the thickness. The length, the breadth, and the thickness. Okay. Now, we are going to apply the moment equilibrium method. Okay, please try to remember, we are finding the stress tensor. Okay, so we are going to apply the moment equilibrium method. The moment equilibrium method, or should I say from moment equilibrium method, we can write as tau xy into a into b into c by 2. Now, we are going to consider the moment equilibrium from this point. Let this point be 1. Therefore, tau is the shear stress, tau xy is the shear stress, AB is the area of this face. The area of this face is AB, and C by 2 is the moment arm. Okay. Now, minus, now this is going in the anti-clockwise direction, and tau yx is going in the clockwise direction. We are taking anti-clockwise direction to be positive, okay, and clockwise direction to be negative. So therefore, we are writing as minus tau yx into a into c. Here a and c, multiplication of a and c will give us the area of this face, okay, area of y face, and b by 2 will give us the moment arm. This is the stress component. This is the stress component. This is the area, and this is the moment arm. Okay. Similarly, this is the stress component. This is the area. This is the moment arm. This is the moment arm. Will gives us is equal to 0. Therefore, after solving this equation, we get that tau xy is equal to tau yx. So in general, we can say like, in general, tau mn is equal to tau nm. Okay, now what? Now we are going to write the stress matrix. We are going to write the stress matrix. The stress matrix is given as sigma x, tau xy, tau xz, tau yx, sigma y, tau yz, tau zx, tau zy, sigma z. This is the stress matrix. Okay. Therefore, we can say, or we can see from the general equation obtained, we can write it as tau mn is equal to tau nm. Therefore, this one and this one is equal, this one and this one is equal, this one and this one is equal. It signifies that the entire matrix is symmetrical. It signifies that the matrix is a symmetric matrix. And these components are all stress tensor or the stress component. This is the normal stress tensor or the normal shear stress or normal stress, and this is the shear tensor or the shear component or the tangential component. Okay, so therefore we can write it that to obtain the symmetry of stress tensor at a point in a body under equilibrium, we need to apply moment equilibrium method. Therefore, our answer is moment equilibrium equation. Moment equilibrium equation. Now for question number 14. Okay, this particular question is from principal stress strain. Okay. This particular question. The component of stress tensor at a point in a plane strain can be obtained by measuring longitudinal strain in the following direction. The answer of this given equation will be option number B, along any three arbitrary direction. Now, I'm going to explain it when I'm going to explain principal stress and strain. For now, you need to write it as along any three arbitrary direction. Okay. And even if I want to explain, I cannot. There's a lot more theories going on. Therefore, it may seems to be a 1 marks question, but it actually the theory is a huge one. So it is not possible for me to cover in this video. So on to the next question, question number 15. Now, this particular question is a repeat of question number 10, which we did in the previous video. Now, those who haven't seen the previous video, go watch it down. It's very important. Question number 15 states that for an isotropic material, it should have been isotropic and elastic material, the relationship between Young's modulus E, Young's modulus is also known as modulus of elasticity, okay, shear modulus G and Poisson's ratio mu is given by, these are the equation. Now, in generally, I would like you to mug up 4 different formulas. Okay. Question number 15. It came in the year 2007. Okay. Okay, now there are 4 formulas which you need to mug up. Okay, it is very important. रट्टा मार लेना बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है. Okay. Okay. The equations are E is equal to 2G 1 plus mu E is equal to 3K 1 minus 2 mu E is equal to 9 kg 3K plus G. Another equation is mu is equal to 3K minus 2G by 6K plus 2G. K is the bulk modulus. Rest of ours is given. E is a Young's modulus. G is the shear modulus. Mu is the Poisson's ratio. Now, alternatively, any of this equation might come and ask you which is what, or if it is wrong or if it's correct. Okay, please try to remember this 4 equation. Now, for the next question number 16 is a bit important question. A metal bar of length 100 millimeter is inserted between 2 rigid support and its temperature is increased by 10 degrees Celsius. If the coefficient of thermal expansion is 12 into 10 to the power minus 6 per 10 degrees Celsius and the Young's modulus is 2 into 10 to the power 5 MPa, stress in the bar is given in MPa. Okay. Now, this question is a bit easy one. All you need to know or remember 3 formulas for this. Okay. Question number 16. Came in the year 2007. Okay. Now, change in length due to thermal expansion is given by delta L is equal to L alpha del T. Here L is the length, of bar. Okay. Alpha is the coefficient of thermal expansion and delta T is the change in temperature. It is given as 10 degrees Celsius and this is given as 12 into 10 to the power minus 6 per degree Celsius. Okay. Now, thermal stress is given as alpha delta T E. Here E is the Young's modulus. Okay. This is the thermal stress. Therefore, thermal stress is given as alpha is the coefficient of thermal expansion, which is 12 into 10 to the power minus 6 into delta T is the change in temperature, which is 10 into E is the Young's modulus. It is given as 2 into 10 to the power 5 MPa. The unit is in MPa. Okay. Therefore, the unit is given as 24 MPa. Therefore, the correct option is 24 MPa. Option number C. Now for question number 17. Question number 17 came in the year 2007. This came in the year 2007. Okay. And the question is given as a rigid bar is suspended by 3 rods made up of same material. The material of these 3 rods are same. The area and length of the central rods are 3A and L respectively, while that of the 2 outer rods are 2A and L respectively. A downward force of 50 kN is applied to the rigid bar. The force in the central and each of the outer rod will be. Now what is required? The forces in the central as well as the outer bars. What is given is that the outer rods have cross-sectional area 2A. It has cross-sectional area 2A. This one has 2A cross-sectional area, and this one also has 2A cross-sectional area. Okay. The length is 2L. Here the length is also 2L. And at the center rod, the rod is of cross-sectional area 3A. 3A. And the length is L. Now, since the outer rods have same cross-sectional area and length, we can say that the force acting on this rod, that is the outer rod, is same. So for these two rods, the forces will be same. Okay. Now it will be different for the central rod, since the cross-sectional area and length is totally different. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to draw the free body diagram. Suppose this is question number 17, came in the year 2007. Now we are going to draw the free body diagram, or before drawing the free body diagram, the most simplified way to draw this structure is like this. This is 2A. This is also 2A. The length is 2L. Here the length is also 2L. Okay. Now for the middle rod, the cross-sectional area is 3A and the length is L. Okay. And there is a load acting here at this from here of 50 kilonewton. Now what we are going to draw? We are going to draw the free body diagram, FBD. We can draw it like this. This is PO for the outer rod, forces in the outer rod. Similarly, it is PO for the outer rod. For the central rod, it is given as PI or the inner rod. Okay. The cross sectional are the same. Okay. And the load 50 kilonewton is acting downward. Now, from here, we can write it that summation of vertical forces acting on the body to be 0. So we are going to write it as 2 P naught or PO plus PI is equal to 50. Say this is equation 1. Okay. Now, since all these three rods are parallelly connected, the properties of parallel connection will apply. That is, the deflection in the outer rod will be equal to the deflection at the central rod or the inner rod. Okay. Delta L0 will be equal to delta Li. Now we know that deflection is given as PL by AE. So P is the force in the outer rod, is given as P naught. Length of the outer rod is given by 2L now L by cross sectional area as 2A into E. Okay. Here we are going to write it as PI. The length is L by 3A E. Okay. After solving, we get that PI is equal to 3 times of P naught. We can write it as equation number 2. Now from equation 1 and 2, from equation 1 and 2, we can write it as 2 P naught, just going to replace Pi with 3 P naught is equal to 50 kilonewton. Therefore, we can write that P naught is equal to 10 kilonewton and Pi is equal to 3 times of P naught, which is 30 kilonewton. Therefore, load on the outer bar is 10 kilonewton and load at the inner bar or the central rod is 30 kilonewton. Therefore, our option is 30 and 10, option number C. Central is 30 and the outer rod is 10. Okay, this is the answer. Question number 18 came in the year 2007. The same question came in the year 2020. Okay. What is given? U1 and U2 are the strain energy stored in a prismatic bar due to axial tensile force P1 and P2 respectively. Okay. The strain energy U stored in the same bar due to the combined action of P1 and P2 will be, we need to combine or we need to compare the strain energy. Okay. Now question number 18 came in the year 2007. First we need to know what is strain energy. Okay. Strain energy is otherwise known as resilience. RESILENCE. Resilience. It is given by half load into displacement, half P delta L. Another way it can be written as half stress strain into volume. Okay. Now we know that delta L is given as PL upon AE, right? So here we can write it as half E into PL upon AE. This is given as P square L by 2AE. Now we are going to consider a bar of length L. Say this is a bar, prismatic bar of length L. Now it is pulled by a load, say P1. Okay. Therefore, the strain energy produced will be U1 is equal to P1 square L by 2AE, right? Now we are going to draw the same bar of length L. Now we are going to apply P1 load, P2 load, and the strain energy produced will be P2 square L by 2AE, right? Now what we are going to do is we are going to combine these two forces and apply it on the same bar. That is, we are going to take the same prismatic bar of length L, but in this case we are going to apply the load P1 plus P2, combined load. This is the combined load. Therefore, the strain energy produced will be P1 plus P2 whole square L by 2AE. Okay. Now we are going to simplify this. We can write it as U is equal to P1 square plus P2 square plus 2 P1 P2. This is the formula of A plus B whole square. Okay. Now I am not going to explain this. By L divided by 2AE. Okay. Further simplifying, we get that P1 square L by 2AE plus P2 square L by 2AE plus P1 P2 L by AE. Okay. Now this is U1, this is U1 plus U2 plus P1 P2 L by A. Therefore, we can write it that U is undoubtedly greater than U1 plus U2. U is greater than U1 plus U2. Okay, this is the answer. Now let us check the answer of the option. It is option number D. U is greater than U1 and U2. Okay. Now for the next question. This particular question is partly important. Okay. This is partly important because the game is within the unit itself. First, let us study this. Okay. A mild steel specimen is under uniaxial tensile stress. The Young's modulus and yield stress for the mild steel are 2 into 10 to the power 5 and 250 MPa. 2 into 10 to the power 5 is the Young's modulus and the stress is 250 MPa. Okay, respectively. The maximum amount of strain energy per unit volume that can be stored in the specimen without permanent set is which of the following? Okay. Now in this case we need to find the strain energy per unit volume. Okay. Strain energy per unit volume is also known as modulus of resilience. Let me write it down here. Question number 19 came in the year 2008. Okay. 2008. Now, we need to find the strain energy per unit volume. Strain energy per unit volume. It means we need to find the modulus of resilience. Modulus of resilience. Okay. So we can write it as strain energy divided by volume. Okay. Therefore, we know strain energy is given as half P into delta L and volume is given by the cross sectional area into length. Therefore, we can write it as half P upon A is stress and delta L upon L is strain. Okay. And we know that stress is directly proportional to strain. That is, stress upon strain gives us Young's modulus. Therefore, we can write it as sigma into sigma by E. We are just replacing the strain. Okay. Half sigma square by E. Okay. This is the formula we need to apply to find our answer. Now for the unit, what is given here for the unit part? Our required unit is Newton millimeter per millimeter to the power Q. Okay, this is our required. But what is given us is MPa. Okay, now 1 MPa is equal to 10 to the power 3 kPa, kilopascal. Also 10 to the power 3 kPa means kilonewton per meter square. From kilonewton to Newton, we are going to write 10 to the power 3 into 10 to the power 3 Newton per meter square. Therefore, we are getting 10 to the power 6 Newton per meter square. We know that 1 meter is equal to 1000 millimeter. Therefore, 1 meter square is equal to 1000 whole square into meter square. Okay. Therefore, we can write it as 10 to the power 6 divided by 10 to the power 6, as 10 to the power 3 into 2 is 6 Newton per millimeter square. We are getting 1 Newton per millimeter square. Now it can be written as 1 Newton millimeter per millimeter to the power cube. Okay, this is important. This is very important. So to convert 1 MPa or megapascal to Newton millimeter per millimeter to the power cube, we need to do nothing. Okay, there is no conversion. The unit will be as it is, the data will be as it is. Okay, now for the solution, sigma square by 2e is equal to half into 250 whole square divided by 2 into 10 to the power 5 Newton per millimeter square. Okay, after solving we get that 625 divided by 4 into 1 by 10 to the power 3 Newton per millimeter square. Okay, therefore we are getting 0.156 Newton millimeter per millimeter cube. Okay, this is the answer. Therefore, the answer is option number D. Okay. Now, question number 20 is also an important question. It is a theory based question. Okay. It came in the year 2008. Okay. Question number 20. What is given here? A vertical rod PQ of length L is fixed at its top end P and has a plunge fixed to the bottom end Q. A weight W is dropped vertically from a height H, which is less than the L, that is the length of the rod, onto the flange. The axial stress in the rod will reduce by which of these following? Increasing the length of the rod, decreasing the length of the rod, decreasing the area of cross-sectional area of the rod, increasing the modulus of elasticity of the rod material. Now we need to find a relation between this. What happens when this weight W drops on the flange? It is a theory based question, as I have said previously. Now first we need to draw a diagram. Say our said rod is given as this. This is our rod. Okay. it is P Q. Okay. Now what is given is that it is fixed at the top. It is fixed at the top. Okay. Now at the bottom region, a flange is attached to it. Say this is my flange. Okay. This is the flange. Flange. The length of the rod is given by L. Okay. This is the flange. Now a W. Let us consider this is the weight W. Okay. It is falling from a height H. This is H. It is less than the length of the rod, PQ. Now what is happening here is that when the weight falls from a height H to the flange, what is happening? The weight transfer its gained potential energy to strain energy to the rod, this flange rod. So let me write it like this. When the weight W what is happening here is that it transfer potential energy to strain energy in the rod. This is the rod. So we can write it like this. When a weight falls through a height H, it gains potential energy it is given by WH, but W is nothing but the mass into acceleration due to gravity. Okay, W is given by mass into G, which is the acceleration due to gravity, into height H through which it falls. Okay, now for the stored strain energy, we can write it as half P into delta L, or we can write it as half sigma epsilon into volume. It can be written as half sigma sigma upon E. We are replacing the strain value here into AL. Therefore, we can write it as sigma square AL by 2E. Now, what is happening? The strain energy stored is equal to the potential energy dropped from a height h. Okay. Therefore, we can write it as WH is equal to sigma square AL by 2E. Sigma square is equal to WH into 2E by AL. Therefore, we can write it as sigma is equal to root over of WH into root over of 2E by AL. Therefore, we can say that sigma is directly proportional to root over of 2E by AL. This is the relation we obtain between the stress produced in the rod and Young's modulus and the cross-sectional area and the length. Okay, when the weight W falls to a height h. Now, from this equation, we can see that to decrease the stress, we need to decrease the Young's modulus as sigma is directly proportional to root over of E. Let me write the formula first here. Sigma is directly proportional to root over of 2E by AL. Okay, this is the formula. Now, to decrease the stress, Young's modulus has to be reduced. Also, to decrease the stress, the cross-sectional area need to be increased, as stress is inversely proportional to 1 by root over of A. And to decrease the stress, we need to increase the, we need to increase the length of the rod, as sigma is inversely proportional to 1 upon root over of L. Okay. Now, from the option, we need to select increase the length of the rod. Okay. Now for question number 21. This is a theory based question. The number of independent elastic constant for a linearly elastic isotropic and homogeneous material is option 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is 2. Now, if you want, you can add a chart if you want, or you can skip this video to the next question. Question number 21 came in the year 2010. Okay. Now, we are going to write a table on it. First table is elastic material. Number of elastic constant. elastic constant number of independent elastic constant. Okay. Now, for a homogeneous and isotropic material, the number of elastic constant is 4. That of number of independent elastic constant is 2. For anisotropic material, the number of elastic constants are infinite. That of independent elastic constant is 21. For orthotropic material, the number of elastic constant is 12, and that our number of independent elastic constant is 9. Is 9. Okay, let me write it up clearly. This is very important. रट्टा मार लेना, ये बहुत ही important है. Now, question number 22 and 23 is a combined question. The question is given as a rigid beam is hinged at one end and supported on linearly elastic spring. This is the rigid hinge or hinge, and this is the rigid beam. This is the elastic spring. Spring 1, spring 2. Now, at point 1 and 2, an inclined load is acting at point 2. Okay, at point 2, an inclined load root over of P is acting at the point 2. Okay, the inclination is at 45 degree. Okay, what we require to find is that question number 2, which of the following option represents deflection delta 1 and delta 2 at point 1 and 2? Okay, which will be the deflection? Now, for this kind of question, we need to draw the free body diagram again. Okay, 22 came in the year 2011. First, we need to draw the free body diagram. Free body diagram. So this is the beam. Okay, this is the point 1. We are going to write it as point B, and this as point C. Okay, and this point as point A. At this point, since it is hinged, only two reactions will be acting on it. One is a horizontal reaction, another is a vertical reaction. Okay, at point B, there will be a reaction like this. Similarly, at point C, there will be a reaction like this. And the corresponding reaction due to the spring is given as like this. This is the spring reaction. Now, we can say that the reaction is given as R1 is equal to K delta 1. Here it is given as R2 is equal to K delta 2. Here K is the spring's constant. K is the spring constant. Okay. Now, at this point, a load at 45 degrees acting like this. This is root over of 2p and the angle is at 45 degree. 45 degree. Therefore, we are going to consider the vertical and the horizontal component of this root over of 2p. Therefore, we can write it as this will be a vertical load which is acting downward as P, since the vertical component will be given as root over of 2p sine 45 degree Celsius, 45 degree not Celsius, and the horizontal reaction will be P also. It is given by root over of 2p cos 45 degree. Okay, and we know both sine 45 and cos 45 is 1 upon root 2. Okay, this is root 2. Let me write it like this. This is root 2. Okay, 1 upon root 2. This will be the free body diagram. Okay, now let us draw the deflected shape of the beam. By that I mean to say if this is the same beam, then after deflection, this is the deflected shape of the beam, right? At this point, it is given by delta 1. This point is given as delta 2. Okay, this is point B, this is point C, this is point A. Let this point be D. Now from similar triangle, from principle of similar triangle, that is triangle AB, and this point let be this E. Okay, ABCD, ABE, and triangle ACD, we can write it like this, that the length L, oh forgot to mention here that length for this part AB portion is L, for this part it is also L. Therefore, this is L, this is also L. So we can write it like L upon delta 1 is equal to 2L upon delta 2. Therefore, the reaction we are getting is that delta 1 is equal to, or 2 delta 1 is equal to delta 2. Okay, this is equation number 1. Now, since this point is hinged, we can say that moment about point A is equal to 0. Therefore, we can write it as P into 2L. This is P. We are taking the vertical components, moment about this point, P into 2L. This is L plus L. So P into 2L is acting in the clockwise direction. Now considering clockwise to be positive and anti-clockwise to be negative, say for this case only, and we write it as minus this reaction R2 K delta L2 can be written as R2 into 2L acting at the anti-clockwise direction minus R1, this is this one, acting in the anti-clockwise direction, this one also, into L is equal to 0. Okay. Therefore, we are going to solve this. Say, we can write it as 2PL minus K delta 2 into 2L minus K delta 1 into L is equal to 0. Now taking L common, we can write it as 2P minus, taking K as common, 2 of delta 2 plus delta 1 is equal to 0. Now delta 2 is given as 2 times of delta 1. Therefore we can write it as 2P minus K within bracket 4 of delta 1 plus delta 1 is equal to 0. Therefore, we can write it as 2P minus K into 5 of delta 1 is equal to 0. For the next page, delta 1 is given as 2 times P by 5K and delta 2, which is 2 times of delta 1, is 4P by 5K. Therefore, our answer is, in this case, is option number B. Option number B. This one. Okay. Now, since question 22 and 23 are common data type question, so we need to do this question also. The load P equals to 100 kilonewton. Which of the following option represents the force R1 and R2 in the spring at the point 1 and point 2? Okay. Now in this diagram, B is basically the point 1 and point C is nothing but point 2. Okay. Now we need to find R1 and R2. Therefore, we know that R1 is equal to K of delta 1. It is given as K into 2P by 5K. Therefore, we get 2P by 5. Now P is given as 100 kilonewton divided by 5. It is 40 kilonewton. Now for R2, it is similarly K delta 2, which is K into 4P by 5K, which is equal to 4P by 5. is equal to 4 times 100 divided by 5 is equal to 80 kilonewton. Okay. So R1 is 40 and R2 is 80. Therefore, we need to find R1 is D. R1 is 40 and R2 is 80. This is the correct answer. This is the correct answer. Thank you for today. Now, rest of the question will be discussed in the next video. Keep following me. Do give a like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you.